Hi there, it's Carolyn Peters from Kira Studios. So here I'm drawing a foot and I'm beginning with my gesture. So in the gesture phase, I use fluid, curvy lines connecting one part to the next. The goal of the gesture is to unify the individual pieces into a cohesive whole. I use rhythmic lines and they add energy, but I'm also being very clear about when they change direction. And now I'm starting to get a little bit more specific about the individual elements of this drawing. So I'm starting to seek out where is the boxy structure of the heel, where is that round ankle form, and how do the tibia and the fibula, those two leg bones, attach to that? Where is the Achilles tendon and how does that grip onto the heel box? The back of the foot is kind of like this domed platform, and then we have these more squishy pads on the outside of the foot. There's one for the joint. Here I'm getting a bit more specific about the shapes of the toes. Notice how the toes arrange on arcs. So I have an arc for the back of the toes and an arc for the front of the toes. So now I'm coming back to my ankle. So the ankle is kind of like a wrench clipping onto a ball-like ankle joint. Now I want to make sure that I have a back plane and a side plane visible. Here I'm funneling the gastrocnemius and soleus muscle into the tendon, the Achilles tendon here. Paying attention to the inside ankle being high, the outside ankle being low. And now I'm clarifying my contour, making sure that the overlaps are clear. What line overlaps the next? What is in front of the other? Trying to build some form on these toes. They're little cylindrical forms. The big toe has an upward movement because it's your pivot point. The other four toes stay slope down because their function is to grip the ground. So here I'm clarifying the inner plane change from that kind of platform of the back of the foot to the squishier side of the foot. So that cross contour that I just drew reinforces that. And that's actually the cast shadow from the leg. So cast shadows take on the form that they drape over. So I really want to play that up. Now I'm massing in my shadow mass, keeping it as a simple tone, meaning a flat tone where I don't have a lot of variation. It's more about the clarity of the shape, meaning the edges, how clear are the edges? Can you discern them very easily? It's not so much about the value variation within them. The value variation is better placed on the core shadows, meaning those form shadow edges. So here I'm explaining how every form has its own little form shadow and how these little pads visually flow into each other, toe, into knuckle, into outside of the foot. So you want to treat them as individual little forms, and every form gets its own little form shadow. And so like that, you end up with a much better edge to your shadow patterns, if you think about the construction of it. Accenting that cast shadow or the pit shadow underneath the foot to really ground it down. Getting form shadows on each side of the toes now. Doing some cross contour, hatching along the form shadow edge. Building the midtone, getting a little bit more into that shadow shape, but keeping it fairly simple. I'm erasing out the contours on the light mask side. Outlines tend to flatten out your drawing, so that's why I'm kind of easing that up. Adding some midtone onto that outer plane there. Building the transition from form, shadow, edge into the midtone. Every plane receives light differently depending on how it's angling at the light. So you want to be very clear about which plane is angling at the light most directly and which ones are starting to angle away and are therefore a slightly darker tone. And then if they're angled completely away from the light source, that becomes your shadow mask. So it's all about understanding your planar structure, which planes angle at the light and where do they angle away. Making sure that these shadows connect, it's all the same cast shadow here. And now I'm just finishing out that ledge, and then the drawing's pretty much complete. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I'll see you next time.